of agriculture, and this led to increase in the food grain production. Understand what is led to this green revolution. See, when you look at increasing the agriculture production, one of the ideas is agriculture production around the world or in any part can be increased if we are going to use the modern inputs. We use the modern inputs, use of modern inputs can increase the production. Like for example, if I use the better quality seeds, I can have a better production. If I use better quality fertilizers, the production can improve. If I use better machines, then in that case, I can find more efficiency. There can be a better production. So there was a time when we thought that modernization, that is use of the modern inputs, which were considered modern by then, chemicals and machines, they can increase the agriculture production. Suppose I'm cultivating a crop and I apply urea to the soil. When I look at urea, what I'm going to find is urea is going to help in increasing the agriculture production. Whenever you add urea, urea helps in faster growth of the plants. Okay? So if I want to increase the rate of the plant growth, I apply urea. Achha. Now the plant grows to some height because of the urea application. Let's say it is a wheat crop. Okay? And wheat sees a good increase in its growth because of the application of those fertilizers like urea. What happens is, if the grain filling starts, the panicles of wheat, they are filled with the grains. This part of the plant where we have this is the part wherein the grains are filled. Now once the grains are filled, then the plant becomes very heavy at the top. The height is good, and now with the grain filling, the plant becomes heavy at the top. Suppose, this discussion aside, now suppose if let's say assume the factors or look at the factors which influence the wind. We know that wind is always going to move in the direction of pressure gradient force. That is, we know that wind is going to move from the areas of high pressure to the areas of low pressure. And greater is the difference between the high pressure and low pressure, greater would be the pressure gradient force. And as the pressure gradient force is high, then the wind speed will also increase. For example, if I look at a cyclonic storm, in a cyclone, there is a very strong low pressure, and this low pressure is able to suck up the winds with a lot of force. Now, the wind acquires a lot of speed, and then this wind forms the cyclonic wind. Okay, so one factor, what I'm trying to tell you is, that influences the speed of the wind is pressure gradient force. Other than the pressure gradient force, one of the factors that is going to influence the speed of the wind will be the force of friction. And the force of friction is always going to act exactly opposite to the direction of the wind speed. Okay? So if wind is moving in the direction of PGF, friction will be exactly opposite. Greater is the force of friction, lesser will be the speed of the wind. For example, if I look at the wind speed in, let's say, upper atmosphere, winds are blowing on the surface, winds are blowing in the upper atmosphere. The upper tropospheric winds are faster than the surfacial winds. The simple reason being, they are moving at a great height. At those heights, we don't have any obstacles. So without any obstacle, the wind acquires more speed. Or for example, if suppose I look at the concentration of the atmosphere, maximum of the concentration of the atmosphere is towards the surface. As I go up into the upper parts of atmosphere, the air becomes less dense or air becomes rarefied. And this air is not able to present much of friction. If I compare westerlies in northern hemisphere with the westerlies in southern hemisphere, what I'm going to notice is westerlies in southern hemisphere, they move with a greater speed. And simple reason being, at that latitude where we have westerlies moving in the southern hemisphere, there is limited landmass and open oceans that do not present that kind of friction that is given by the landmasses which have a number of natural or the artificial structures. If I have a wind which is moving at a greater height, there is a likelihood, if other factors are constant, that at greater height wind speeds will be more. Lesser is the height of the wind because of greater friction that the wind faces from the surface, the speed of the wind will be less. So greater is the height, more is the speed, lesser is the height, lesser is the speed, and if other factors are constant. Now, when I'm cultivating this plant wherein I have applied some amount of urea, plant attains good height and becomes heavy at the top. Now if the wind blows, wind is going to affect this plant, and because it is already heavy at the top, with the effect of the wind, now this plant, the stem, it bends in this fashion. The stem bends in this fashion. This bending of the stem because of this wind effect is what we call as stem lodging. Okay? This is what we call as stem lodging. So stem lodges because of the effect of the wind. And if the stem lodges, then harvesting of this crop using machines is now next to impossible. Moreover, your productivity is less because you are having a stem which is lodged and a good part of the plant is away from the sunlight. What we witnessed is that if you want to increase the production, you need to use fertilizers like urea, but it is going to lead to good height of the plant and the stem lodges in that case. Now, with aid from Rockefeller Foundation, an American breeder, Norman Borlaug, he started conducting some experiments in Mexico. He found that there is a wheat variety which is there in Japan, Norin 10 variety. It is basically a semi-dwarf variety. That means the height of this variety is less. And he was able to identify that certain genes are there which are responsible for this less height of the plant. So what he developed was, he basically crossed the locally cultivated variety of wheat in Mexico with this Norin 10 variety. And he was able to produce a wheat variety which had a short height. Suppose a plant is there, the plant had the same number of grains, but the plant had a much shorter height. With same grains and much shorter height, can I say at this place, that is at this place 1, wind speed would be less? And if the wind speed is less, then in that case, because of the friction, less wind speed means stem lodging could be prevented. So what was the role that when you look at this Sonora variety, this was a semi-dwarf variety which could prevent stem lodging. If I can prevent stem lodging, that means I can now cultivate this particular crop over a very large area.